if you really want to party with me. All right, we in here. We in here. You are now watching Juke Boy Sports Show. Hope everybody's doing out there. Man. When I be high, I be fucking up. You know what I'm talking about? But hope everybody in TV land is doing good. I'm your host, Kyng Ralph. Solo Dolo Show. Me and my Hello Kitty cup. But hey, we in here. Like I said, hope everybody's doing a good job. Got a good show ahead of us today. Big tweet. So before we get started, get all the pleasantries out the way. If you want to do a podcast, say what you're watching, photo shoot, music video, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. Make sure you go like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff on all the socials. Make sure you go like the He Say She Say page, subscribe at Juke Sports Show, and you go follow Juke Sports Show on Instagram, subscribe at Juke Media on YouTube. You can follow me at all of the socials you can think of, every platform at KYNGRALPH at an _for X or Twitter. And let's get into it, man. Caitlin Clark has been, people just can't stop talking about Caitlin Clark. And me neither, because everything pops up, so I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about this. And so she's been the talk of the town, I guess you could say, from everything to the types of viewership, her $20 million shoe deal. And now by players, it seems like she's being targeted. You've seen her elbowed in the face, knocked to the ground after going up for a layup, hip check while waiting for an inbound play, as well as being hit set and just not seeing this screen come and get hit with a real hard screen. And it leads you to the question, are WNBA players hating on Caitlin Clark? And they would tell some people, I did a poll on my personal Instagram page, and about 83% of, I think it ended up being 13 people. Yeah, I think it was like 13 people that actually participated, so I appreciate y'all. But 83% yes, and I disagree. And I think that there's levels to this conversation that I think need to be had. I think when it comes to the nuances of the conversation, we got to first acknowledge all of the facts before we start to have the conversation. And yes, do I believe that there are some players who are jealous or hating in some capacity? Yes, I would say yes. But do I think that it as a whole, that the WNBA players, or in just a general statement, are hating or jealous? I don't think that. I don't believe that. I think that as a person that enjoys the game, I'm a father. You would want the future to be better for the people that are to come after us. And so I just genuinely believe that majority of them want to see the game progress in a way that benefits them as well as what's next, kids and things of that sort. And so I think that Caitlin Clark is pushing that train down the tracks, but I also feel like there's other people that don't get talked about, like Angel Reese coming up, and people are like, oh, you're trying to throw yourself into a conversation that's not about you. And I think that that's cap. I had a conversation with one of the homies the other day, and we were on Twitter, shout out to my boy Desmond, and I just like, bro, when we talk about this, we got to think about, like, yeah, Caitlin Clark was being talked about because she was hitting these Steph Curry threes. She plays a lot like Steph Curry, so it's like the first female to see the first female play like that. Yeah, she had a buzz. But it wasn't until the national championship game where Iowa lost to LSU and LSU dominated the game. Angel Reese doing all this, pointing at rings fingers, talking big trash. And in that moment, Angel Reese became a villain, and it then prompted up Caitlin Clark. Now, there's levels to this conversation of like, one, the way Black people are looked at in America, the amount of viewership, as well as just being liked. Like a white person can be brash, pump up their chest, beat on their chest, do whatever, and it's like, oh, that's passion, that's love for the game. And then Caitlin Clark, who went like this in another girl's face a couple games before that, never got a complaint from nobody. Angel Reese does it, and now she's called classless. And so I think that you got to look at all of the parts of the conversation. I hate that we can't just enjoy this girl's game, but I also don't like it on one side either, where it's this like, oh, we're being too physical with her, because when LeBron came in the league, we were looking at him crazy. Remember, if you go look it up, I don't remember what playoff it was, but they were playing the Wizards. He complained about how he felt like the Wizards were trying to hurt him. We crucified him and called him soft. But then the moment that someone hits Caitlin Clark a little too hard, it's like, oh, well, the WNBA players need to be grateful and take it easy on her. Meanwhile, Andrew Reese getting choke slammed like like homegirl was the Undertaker, and not a fuss. Nobody's saying like, oh, Andrew Reese is being targeted. And so I do think that as rookies, there's a physicality to the game that is just different going from college to the pros. You go from playing 18 to 22-year-olds to these grown ass women that are out here on this court. And that's the part for me where I feel like I don't want to lose that part of the conversation. Caitlin Clark is not being hated on, but she's doing great things for the game. But you also got to acknowledge the fact that she is a white girl that is also big time box office, and she's being able to benefit from all of that. Where Angel Reese, Asia Wilson has a heck of a personality, very attractive woman, and doesn't get that same thing, because if she was white, we would be having a different conversation. And so I do think that there is some nuances to this conversation that need to be acknowledged. But in the end, I believe multiple truths can be had, where I do feel like there are some players who are jealous, but I also feel like the majority of the WNBA players are happy for Caitlin Clark and the notoriety and viewership that she's bringing the sport of women's basketball. Next up, Justin Jefferson gets a crazy deal from a wide receiver standpoint. I believe that breaks down to $35 million a year, 4 years, $140 million. I don't remember what the guarantees were. Let me see if I can look that up. $110 million guaranteed. Sheesh. Bruh, that's what's up. Hey, buddy's set for life, G. But I do think, question in the end, is Justin Jefferson worth $35 million a year? And it's just tough for me to say yes to that question, because then let's just say Justin Jefferson gets J.J. McCarthy ends up being at least a top 10 quarterback. He's going to have to be paid like one. So it's like between one wide receiver and a quarterback, and everybody in sports media keeps saying that the going rate for the quarterback right now is going to be $40 million. And $75 million between two players is just a difficult pill for me to swallow. Pause if needed. And so in the end, do I think Justin Jefferson himself as an individual talent? Yes, he's more than worth it. His stats that he's been putting up the last couple of years is crazy. Kind of makes you question some things, but also it makes you go like, oh man, could he possibly catch up to Jerry Rice? And it's like he's been in the league for how many years? 4 years, and he's already at 6,000 yards, just about 30 touchdowns. And puts you at he needs to get his touchdown rate up, but his amount of yards and receptions that he's getting, almost 100 receptions every year. Shoot, at this rate, between 6,000 and 4 seasons, I think he'll be able to get, if he can stay on par, stay healthy, could he possibly reach Jerry Rice, where it's like Jerry Rice's numbers are so crazy, even like Mike Evans of like 10 years of 1,000 yards, and he's still nowhere near. And so leads me to the question, is he worth it? I do believe he's worth it because I do feel like Justin Jefferson is one of those people that is what he's doing, we're not going to see all the time. I do know we're in an era where we're throwing the football a lot more. We are definitely in a position to where he'll get those opportunities. And so I'm like, is he worth it? As an individual, he is worth it because I do think that when we start to talk about the different tiers, his production and what he's able to do, no matter who he's on the field with and who he's on the field against, he's putting up numbers. And there's with the likes of Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and then after that, I feel like it's a little bit of a drop-off. But just those top guys that are putting up numbers, no matter who is on the other side, is where I think that top dollar is where it would be a requirement for you to be able to keep a player like that is to give him that top dollar. But one day is just going to be difficult where if you have someone of that ilk, I think it's going to be hard to pay a quarterback top dollar where without the revenue going all the way up. And a tough job for the GMs out here, balancing the salary cap. And then next up, another Justin. Justin Fields traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers signed Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson is now the proclaimed starter, or has been since the day he signed. Mike Tomlin has said that as much. Justin Fields was being interviewed the other day, and they asked him about how he felt about being on the team, being a backup for the year. And he pretty much said that I didn't come here to be a backup. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think one of the things about Justin Fields that irritates me when people start to critique him is every day people say especially in sports, people will say specifically like, oh, every day you got to update your resume. But it's like, I feel like with him, it's not what we last saw. It's how he's played as a whole is what we're judging him on. And yes, he's had some moments that were, what are you doing? Who are you throwing to? But I also feel like as a coach, being able to pull things out of a player, I feel like you got to be able to look at the good things. He has a year where he rushed over 1,000 yards. He had games last year where he threw for 300 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns, and he was slinging the rock. And you see the potential that he has. And I feel like comparing him to like Caleb Williams right now, 2 years ago, he had Mooney. He had, I forget, it's Amon St. Brown's, Amon St. Brown's older brother. Mooney, Komet, a slew of running backs, and I felt like the running game was important. So they traded up. They trade their number 1 pick, grab DJ Moore. Now it's time for him to throw the rock, and it's like you're not really giving him enough confidence to really throw the rock at first. You're going all these little short dink and dunk, screen behind the line of scrimmage types of plays. Then eventually open up the playbook and let him throw, and that's when you start to see, you can see the tools. But then this year, going into the season, you draft Rome Odunze. You go and sign Keenan Allen. So now if Justin Fields had, and then you sign DeAndre Swift, if Justin Fields had this type of talent going into this season, where he is in his progression as a quarterback, I feel like you're just getting better numbers. And I feel like I don't blame Justin Fields when you start to have that conversation and bring up all of the details of it. I don't blame Justin Fields for going into it feeling like I'm seeing what Pittsburgh has. This is one of the places I wanted to be at anyway. Thank the Bears and Ryan Poles for trading me here. But I also feel like I got an opportunity here, learn from a veteran, and eventually I'm going to want to start. And I didn't come here to start. I didn't come here to be a backup. I didn't come here to just sit and learn for a year and waste a year. So I don't think Justin Fields is tripping here. I feel like as a competitor, someone that played sports, you don't want to see someone that with that potential just get comfortable with being a backup and wasting away their career, where he has the drive and want to get back on the field and show he can be a legitimate starter in this league. Next up, we got the NBA Finals, and got number 5 seed in the West, Dallas Mavericks. Number 1 seed in the East, who also had the best record in the NBA, Boston Celtics. And this one here, man, this is tough. And I'm gonna get to this later. I'm really rooting for Kyrie Irving. So it's like there's a part of me that wants the Mavericks to go and win it all. But then just watching the games, looking at breaking down what each team has, how those pieces fit, how they match up with others, I do feel like in the end, I think Boston is just so much better defensively. And I think Joe Mazzulla is a good coach where he's not just going to let Luka beat him by himself, or Kyrie Irving and Luka be the only two that they're not getting 35 every night and we're going to lose. Like at some point, if they're getting that type of buckets or them type of buckets and scoring that much, then the rest of the team's not going to be able to do much with us. And so I feel like those are things that I would definitely be worrisome about as a Mavs fan. But at the same time, the way that PJ Washington's been playing, the way that Jones Jr. has been playing, Hardaway off the bench, Gafford and Lively catching lobs, I think that the Mavs have a fighting chance. I do think this is going to be a great series. Keys are going to be, can the Mavericks others really get the job done? And then for the Celtics, I feel like, can Porzingis be healthy enough to make an impact on both sides of the court? Where I think he stretches the floor offensively, but he's also a legitimate rim protector and a very sneaky, freakish athlete, honestly. They call him the unicorn for a reason. And so when you look at Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, White, Drew Holiday, it just kind of makes it to where there's a lot of bodies for them to be able to throw at Luka and Kyrie, where I think you could potentially put Drew Holiday on someone like PJ Washington or Jones Jr. and have him roam and help on defense. Use Brown, who's a bigger body, to guard Luka. Put Tatum on Washington. Put Porzingis on one of their bigs, and then let White guard Kyrie, and then switch off between Drew and White, and then Tatum and Brown as far as who's going to guard Luka, and rotate things around. I think the Celtics will be able to get it done, so I am going to pick the Celtics in this finals, although I am majorly big-time rooting for Kyrie, so I want to see him get it done. But at the end of the day, it's like what we always want don't always happen. And so we got to that part of the show where we're coming off the top. Got some topics that popped up in the news over the last couple days or last week that I want to speak on. First one, Bronny decides to stay in the draft. He has been invited by 10 teams, but I think he's only really going to be visiting 3 or 4. 2 of the teams that have been mentioned are the Lakers as well as the Suns. who I believe the Lakers have the 17th pick. Phoenix Suns have the 22nd pick. And so is Bronny legitimate? Is he someone that a team should go after? And I do personally feel like Bronny is someone that if you have the ability to pick someone and give them a year or two to really train them, coach them up, get them better. Because I do think right now he has the IQ. I think he has a high IQ. I think long arms, he's going to come in day one and be a defender. But I do, and I've always said this, that I feel like Bronny is a role player at its best. I would be really surprised if he was someone that made multiple All-Stars. But I do believe that Bronny can be a legitimate piece. He can be a Derek White type. He can be a little bit more of a on the shooting side and not as much as the playmaker, but in Drew Holiday terms, because I think he measured out at 6'3" with like a 6'6", 6'7" arm span, wingspan. And so I think defensively he can be able to disrupt things defensively. He can knock down shots, move the ball, and be a legitimate starter, if not just a six-man role player off the bench. But I do think that going into it, I just don't see him night in and night out being someone that's going to be a force in the NBA. So if when the question comes is he legitimate? Is he a legitimate star? No. Is he a legitimate NBA player? He's somebody I would draft. Just the measurables alone, watching how he played at the combine, although he didn't play against anybody that is going to get drafted in the first round. But I do think in the end, Bronny is going to be a legitimate NBA player. I was really looking at this when I was watching, I think it's All Facts. It's Keyshawn Johnson's podcast. He had David Justice, who was a Black American baseball player in the 90s, won multiple World Series, and was on the Atlanta Braves team that won a World Series. And they had a predominantly Black team. And I didn't quite realize this at the moment because I was so young when that happened. But when he was naming off the players, I was like, dang, they really did have hella Black people. And so as someone who I've always said, like, my best sport when I played sports was baseball, I just kind of went away from it to go back to basketball and then went back too late and ended up hurting myself to where I wasn't able to really achieve my potential. But I'll always say, if your child has just the slightest athletic ability, if you can get them in early enough and work on that hand-eye coordination, baseball is the sport for you. It's a lot of stop and go, and it is a little bit more expensive where you got to get the cleats, you got to get the gloves, you got to get the hats, you got to get – it's equipment and bats. It's equipment that you need to buy that, especially when it comes to – not that every Black American lives in the hood, but some of the more poverty-stricken areas, it's going to be harder for baseball teams or for kids to gravitate to baseball because your parents have to go out and buy those things, where I can get you some little run-of-the-mill shoes and a basketball, like, hey, go over to the park, you can hoop. If you got enough kids outside, you got a football, even if it's a little Nerf football, you got something that you can get it done to where kids are participating in the sport. But when it comes to baseball, if you ain't got a ball, a bat, gloves, cleats, it's going to be kind of a little harder to go out there and play that sport. And so I feel like that's one of the things when it comes to the question, why aren't Black Americans playing baseball? This year on opening day, we had our lowest, I guess, percentage of players that are Black Americans. When a lot of times you see a lot of Black faces, and they'll be Black Latin, which is nothing wrong with that. Go get your money. But I do feel like there's certain things, and I didn't necessarily recognize this. I knew that they were going and to these Latin countries and to find players, but I didn't know to the realm of them going to places in Latin America and building baseball parks, baseball fields, facilities where they could possibly do that same thing here in places in America, and I think it would bring a little bit more allure to the sport. Where, especially baseball in my areas, it's like unless you have a team that's there, like being from Chicago, White Sox is something that gets talked about a lot. I have a little cousin. I always make the joke he gonna get us out the hood. But he's a really good baseball player. Baseball's been around my family, but it's like there's a baseball team that's literally 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes up the road from where I'm from in Chicago. And so it's a little bit more attainable for them. Where if you live in a place like, I'm trying to think of, because I feel like most major cities have one. But let's just say a place like like if you live in an urban area that doesn't really have a baseball team, and that's where you start to have these conversations of it's hard to even have it attainable because I can't physically see it. And then when I do see highlights on TV, a lot of them don't be black. And so, yeah, why would I want to go do something where I'm not really being represented? I don't really see us out there doing. I don't want to do it. It's not cool, like that type of thing. And I do think that it sucks because growing up, there's the Barry Bonds, the Willie Mays, Jackie Robinsons. I could go on and on, where even like the Negro Leagues just being accepted into statistics from the Negro Leagues being accepted in Major League Baseball like statistics. I think that was great, but in order to get back to that, you need to put the sport in front of people, put bats in people's hands, and I think that can go a long way. Next up, I'm gonna get this one out the way, and then I'm gonna go with my last one. Deontay Wilder, let it go, bro. Let it go, man. My man. I was a huge fan of yours, and to this day, I'm still a big fan. But you gotta let it go, my boy. Taking a loss, fifth round TKO to Zhang, who was also 41, and you had a good run, my man, but you just don't have the technical training of boxing where you can sit there and jab, bob, and weave, go to the body, left, right, uppercut. Like you just really trying to land that right hand, and it's just you hit hard, but it's not fast enough anymore. Your defense isn't sound enough, and I just feel like you're past your prime, and I'd hate to see you get beat up over and over again. It's like it sucks to see. As a big fan, I just want to just let it go, my boy. We appreciate you for everything that you did, but please let it go. Retire. I don't want to see you in the ring no more. Gilbert Arenas. No Chill Gil is what they call him. Says Steph is not a generational talent. And I've been going back and forth on this because his reasoning behind it is it's like a generational talent is something you cannot mimic. And it's like Michael Jordan was a generational talent for his time. Where Steph, although Steph is definitely the best shooter of all time, there were some people that you can get that are just as good in certain realms. Where I feel like someone like Michael or LeBron, Magic Johnson, Shaq are people like even KG when he came in. These are people that were like they're blueprints. Like they're the blueprint. And I do think that when it comes to Steph, there's a commonality, a relatability to Steph that you can't have people say that they can relate to Steph, but then also say he's a generational talent. And that's the part for me where I would probably say I don't think Steph is a generational talent. I think Steph achieved what he was able to achieve through training, hard work, and mastering of his craft. But then you can point to people like a Reggie Miller, you could point to a Ray Allen, you could point to Dame, you could point to Clay. Like there's people who can shoot. I feel like just a little underneath Steph and probably better in certain moments. Like me personally, I do think Dame is a better clutch 3-point shooter than Steph is. I think Steph does a lot of front running, but at the same time, he's the greatest shooter of all time. He's definitely changed the way that the game is played, but I don't think that those things go into the fact of whether or not he's a generational talent. And that's the thing for me why I would say no. I don't think that he is a generational talent. I think Wemby, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Magic, Shaq, those are people that were generational talents because still to this day, as close as Kobe got, he still wasn't quite Mike. We're still looking for another Shaq. LeBron was Magic, but way more athletic. Like there's still people that is like we still have never seen that. We still haven't seen someone like Magic who legit played the 5 all the way down to the 1 in different finals against legitimate bigs, not teams playing small ball basketball. And so I'm gonna say no, he is not. And before I get up out of here, y'all owe Kyrie Irving an apology. I seen the way that y'all was talking about him. I posted it on my story. We didn't forget. So if Kyrie win, I don't want to hear none of that. Oh, he couldn't win without LeBron. Like, no, he don't deserve to be on that top 75 team. Kyrie Irving, y'all owe that man an apology. He got back to the finals, and he did his part. I know Luka's the best player on that team, but he did his part. He over there leading. He over there hooping, staying out of trouble. And, yeah, we got them receipts. We didn't forget. And so, with that, I got to get up out of here. I appreciate y'all for watching. Me and my Hello Kitty cup. Big sip. But we got to get up out of here. Make sure you go like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Comment. Please comment. I need the interaction. Get up there and interact. Sorry to be so aggressive. You know, I got it. Woosah. But make sure you go like the He Say She Say page on Facebook. Make sure you go subscribe on YouTube, Juke Media, J.U.K. Media. Go follow Juke Sports Show, J.U.K. Sports Show on Instagram. And then you can follow me at everything that I just mentioned, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, at KYNGRALPH at an _ for extra Twitter. And it's been fun, y'all. But I got to get up out of here. And like I always say,